How are you doing, everyone? How are you doing? Please drop your flags in the chat. Let me see where you guys are from. I think we have 60 people right now. We have 60 people. Please let me know. Let me know where you are from, and we will start shortly. Let's get to 100 viewers, and then we'll start our live stream. Thank you very much. Tell your friends, please. Tell your friends in your respective country groups. Let me open up the group so that everyone can send messages, and let's remind each other that we are starting our day 1 of the Climate and WASH Virtual Summit. Okay, I think our numbers are good enough. How are you guys doing? Thank you, and thank you again for registering and being part of this very, very wonderful session. Today is the International Day of the African Child, and I'm personally very proud to be an African child, a child of the soil, a child born from this continent. And this is a continent of opportunities. This is a continent of hope and resilience. And we want to channel that theme, that celebration of the Day of the African Child into climate action. I believe everyone who's registered or everyone who joined on this live stream, someone who's passionate about climate change, someone who's passionate about turning the adversities that we are facing regarding climate change, regarding water scarcity, regarding the everyday struggles that we face when it comes to climate change, and turn that into passion and zeal. And not only into passion and zeal, because you can have passion and zeal, but we want to turn that passion and zeal into action, and not just any kind of action, but action that also brings income to ourselves, revenue to ourselves, creates green jobs. And I'm very proud to have you all in the chat today, to have you all registered and ready to be part of this session. But we need to first understand what today is all about. Today is a very, very big day. And I want to start with a presentation on the International Day of the African Child, what it truly is and why we are all gathered here today. All right. So allow me to start my presentation this way. All right. Hopefully you all can see what's going on the screen. Before I introduce my two very wonderful speakers today, let me start off with an introduction about myself. So who am I? Why do I have the right to speak to you? I am Tanasko Mabfumo. I am based in Zimbabwe. I am an ambassador for an organization called Our Youth for the Climate, or OY4C for short. As well, I am an ambassador for multiple organizations such as the Global Shapers Community, as well as a founder of Agro 263, which is one of the co-facilitators of this wonderful program today. So you can get to know me personally. I'm the one who was sending you the messages. You can feel free to DM me personally about anything. If you want to know more about my own personal journey in climate action, I will be free to share that more intimately within the group and privately as well. So let's start off with this presentation about the fight for relevant education. So 1976 to 2026, the fight for relevant education. So once again, I'll just start off by welcoming you and saying that all of us here are people who have some sort of educational background, but it was not always easy for us to have the right to education, especially education that is within our own contexts, education that is not whitewashed, and education that's not colonial. So in 1976 in Soweto, a group of young advocates, young people who wanted a right to education that is for them, by them, they led an uprising that we are commemorating today. As you can see in the picture there, those are young people who are protesting for education to be taught in their own languages, in their own contexts. And now what we are saying in this summit is we want to turn that same energy, not just for education, basic education, but for climate education, right? So the core of the demands of the students 50 years ago was simple: education that reflects their reality, not a colonial agenda. They wanted tools that they can actually use to survive and to build. So the true legacy of that day in 1976 is not just a march, but it was taking infrastructure and systems into their own hands. And this is the same passion that we want to instill in you guys, so that you can have also a passion to change the climate realities within your own countries as well. So let's talk about the new curriculum and the contextual climate education that we are talking about today. So fast forward 50 years today, what is the new colonial agenda? It is a global climate narrative that ignores our local suffering, okay? We cannot survive on imported climate theories, right? The days of copying and pasting these European climate policies into African communities are over. A lot of the times, people are not passionate about climate change, not because they are not passionate about it, but because it's being delivered to them in a way that is not relevant to them. I hope you understand, right? So we need a new curriculum. We need survival-based, localized knowledge, and we must radically shift our focus from reading global emission reports to building adaptive local infrastructure for ourselves. If the education does not teach us how to secure our own water and grow our own food during crises like El Nino, then it is not relevant to us Africans. And I hope you guys have the same understanding of the issue here of not having contextual climate education. Hopefully, by the end of these 3 days, and even beyond that, we will be better equipped to be leaders within our own countries so that we can be advocates who can take passion into action. All right. Now let's talk about the theme. So each and every year on the 16th of June, there is a theme for the International Day of the African Child. And this year's theme is ensuring universal access to WASH. Okay. So what is WASH, right? This is water, sanitation, and hygiene. That's what WASH stands for, right? So what do we mean when we're saying we want to ensure universal access to water, sanitation, and hygiene to every African child in Africa? We are saying that this brings us, let us be brutally honest, right? Water scarcity is the front line of the climate crisis because water is life, right? No water, no food, right? No water, no life. So when the climate breaks, it breaks our water systems first. Water access and water sanitation is the first thing to be affected when there's a climate disaster, right? A child cannot go to school if they are walking 10 kilometers to a dry riverbed every single morning to try and get some water. I hope you understand, right? A community cannot innovate if it is battling a cholera outbreak, right? Without WASH, education and development collapse completely. You cannot build a future on contaminated water. All right. So that's what this theme is about: ensuring universal access to water, sanitation, and hygiene for every African child. All right. So we are saying that we want contextual education for us, by us. So this is not just a regular summit. I will not just be dictating to you, or the facilitators or the speakers will not just be dictating to you, what you're supposed to do, how to be a climate advocate. No, we are going to work together to create a framework that we will then present to our local policymakers and even internationally with your name on it. Your name, yes, you, the person in the chat, you, the person watching the live stream, you are going to be a co-author of a framework that will be presented to organizations like the government, like the UN, and we are going to demand, right, our own contextual education. That's one. And we are going to demand resources that will allow us to turn our climate passion into climate action. So at the end of this program, we're not just going to have a book or a framework. We're going to be people who are having the tools necessary to create change within our communities. All right. But before we get into our first speaker, I would like to acknowledge our partners who are here with us today. So before we talk about things such as disaster risk management, I would love to thank all the sponsors that are with us in this summit. We have Crust Eco Network. Crust Eco Network is a powerhouse that is driving grassroots environmental advocacy and mobilizing youth to protect our ecological future. We have the Global Shapers Community. Global Shapers Community is an organization birthed out of the World Economic Forum. And this Global Shapers Community, it births youth leaders who are relentlessly driving localized dialogue, policy action, and community impact on the ground. Within each and every country, there is a Global Shapers Hub. And within each and every city, there is a hub that you can join. So within our WhatsApp groups, I will tell you more on how you can join some of these organizations, because we don't want to just be someone with a passion. You need someone behind you to push you. You need people who are around you who can support you. And some of these organizations are there to support you. We have the Red Cross Society, particularly the Botswana Red Cross Society. So the Red Cross Society, this is the biggest environmental organization in the entire world, right? And they are at the front line of humanitarian response, data risk reduction, and community resilience in the face of climate shocks. So within your countries, there is definitely a Red Cross, and you can definitely become a volunteer within the Red Cross. I myself am a volunteer in the Zimbabwe Red Cross Society. We have Elevate Trust, and these are champions of youth empowerment, and they are bridging the gap between raw potential and tangible STEM education and innovation capacity. They are based here in Zimbabwe. And then we have Agro 263. This is an agroecological enterprise actively doing the groundwork, building indigenous systems such as nurseries and aquaponics, and securing food systems. I myself am the founder of Agro 263, and I've been very fortunate enough to be conducting a lot of these innovative climate resilience initiatives. And I'll be very glad to talk to you guys more about how you can also be equipped to become climate entrepreneurs within your own context. But on day 3, you're going to receive a masterclass on how you can become green entrepreneurs. But for today, let's talk about disaster risk management. So that is our first session today. So I'm going to bring in our first speaker. Our first speaker, let me just share with you her picture so you can see better what she looks like. This is our first speaker today. Her name is Miss Aone Watungamile. She is the Botswana Red Cross Society Youth President. So I am going to put her on the screen, and she's just going to give you a brief introduction about herself, and then she'll go more into her presentation. So please, Aone, tell us about yourself. Who are you, and what are you bringing to the table?
Hi, everybody. Good evening. My name is Aone. First name Lami, but I prefer Aone. And I'm the Botswana Red Cross Youth President, as shown on the screen. And I'm not just the president, I'm also a volunteer. So a lot of people have this misconception that once you're in the board or you are an elder, it means that you are no longer a volunteer. I'm still very much a volunteer. Thank you for having me. Today is such a wonderful day, and happy June 16th. Happy Day of the African Child, my fellow Africans. Love you guys. So, what can I say about myself? Okay, just quick thing. So today I just found out that I am finally going to be graduating. My results came out, so I am going to graduate as a lawyer in October, and I'm so excited. And as it's the 16th of June, the Day of the African Child, I also feel like, as an African child, I mean, this day is so special for me because I only found out like 3 hours ago that, I passed my exams. So, yeah, that's just what I can say. So, I'm going to be taking you guys through the borderless climate risk and disaster risk reduction. So, basically, the Sadc shock wave, right? All right, let's move on to Natswa. The next slide. So, um, one thing we should know is that climate shocks such as droughts and floods don't just stop at the borders. They affect systems, or they're interconnected because our ecosystem is quite interconnected. So, in particularly in the Sadc region, we have similar challenges that have to deal with the climate shocks. So they affect interconnected systems across the Sadc region, which impact on like food security, water, energy, livelihood, public health. So I'll also highlight the roles of disaster risk reduction, right? So this slide illustrates how rainfall deficit or a lack of rainfall triggers shock across multiple sectors. So we can see that it's across the agricultural sector. We have crop failure, we have livestock, wildlife stress. We also have hydropower constraints. And in these crop failure, it means that there's a need for humanitarian assistance because it means that people are not eating. People are not eating. So even wildlife, when wildlife is, when wildlife does not have anything to graze on, there becomes a conflict between wildlife and people, which ultimately requires humanitarian assistance. And that ultimately shows that, we just need to do something about that. And then there are also hydropower constraints. Hydropower constraints. We also have hydropower constraints, and they need like social protection and public finance. When you look at countries such as Zambia that deal with a lot of hydropower electricity, when the rivers are running low, it just needs assistance because now it means there's lack of water, yes, which ultimately leads to lack of a lot of things, a lack of electricity, lack of all that. So, this is why we refer to shocks as borderless systems. So, disaster risk reduction, DRR in short. It teaches us that disasters are not caused by hazards alone. They result from vulnerability and exposure and weak systems. So therefore our focus must be on managing risk before our disasters occur. All right, let's move on. So, wash is always the first casualty. Wash is always the first casualty. So, it's always the first system to fail or during disasters. When you look at floods, when it floods, your pit latrines are going to overflow and they're going to contaminate drinking water. Stagnant water creates breeding grounds for various um, organisms. You have your mosquitoes increasing the risk of malaria and other waterborne diseases that become prevalent in certain areas and they lead to loss of life or increased illness. And schools and clinics may also be disrupted. And in response, organizations such as the Red Cross, not just the Botswana Red Cross, the Red Cross across the Sadc region, they usually rehabilitate boreholes and distribute hygiene kits to affected families. So this just demonstrates how critical WASH services are for protecting public health. Let's move on, Tanatwa. So drought creates different but equally serious wash crisis, right? So when boreholes dry up, communities rely on unsafe water sources, and competition for water increases between people and livestock. This leads to serious disease outbreaks. When you look at a water crisis, let me take Zambia for example. When there is limited access to clean drinking water, communities, especially in the rural areas, often resort to consuming unsafe water, which increases the risk of cholera. And as we know, currently cholera is quite prevalent in Zambia. So this is just a wash issue, it's a sanitation issue, a hygiene issue, it's a water issue. So there are recurring outbreaks in Zambia, and this leads to reduced productivity. Now, young people can play a vital role in promoting hygiene by educating peers on safe water practices, organizing cleanup campaigns, and supporting early warning system that identify emerging wash risks. Let's go. Next slide, Tanatwa. Thank you. So traditionally, humanitarian action has focused on responding after loss occurs. So basically, humanitarian action is usually response. It's not proactive, so it's response based. And when you look response after losses, it's event focused, there is relief and logistics emphasis, and there's usually a response window which is quite short because it's basically response to what is happening now. So instead of only delivering relief, DRR emphasizes preparedness. We must always be prepared. We must always invest in preparedness. And we should always have the government or other stakeholders involved and community participation. Guys, I cannot stress this enough. We need community participation in order for us to do anything. The community needs to join hands and come together for a common purpose. So, communities should not only be viewed as mere recipients of aid, but as active partners in managing risk. They are literally the people who drive everything. All right, Tana, so let's go. So in 2023, 2024, we had an El Nino drought, which was quite prevalent across the Sadc region. I think most, if not all, countries were affected by the drought. And it just goes to show how powerful or how interconnected the climate crisis is. Um, when you look at Oh, sorry guys, I'm not wearing my glasses, but I should be wearing my glasses. I should be wearing my glasses. So here we have an example of Zambia, Zimbabwe, and Botswana. And these countries all experienced severe impacts through different ways, right? So this case study shows that climate uh, shocks affect agriculture, energy systems, social protection programs, and livelihoods simultaneously. So when you look at Zambia had a lot of crops that were damaged. So, damaged crops means less food security, which means a need for humanitarian assistance because people have to eat in order to survive. And when you look at Zimbabwe, more than half of the population was expected to require food aid. So you can imagine maize production was down 77%, which means we did not have our maize meal. We did not have our pap. It means people were going hungry, which was a cause for humanitarian assistance. And in Botswana, extreme agricultural. I'm not able to see this quite well, guys. My eyes are quite small. But then yes, the agricultural sector was also affected in Botswana, and because we experience quite a number of droughts, or drought is quite prevalent here. I think maybe because of the the desert, and its growth, that there's a lot of food insecurity. So you can just get to see that this is quite interconnected. The El Nino drought case study shows that this is quite interconnected. Our climate is quite interconnected. Our environment is interconnected, regardless of which part of the SADC region you are in. You could be in Zimbabwe, South Africa, whatever. Just the drought. The drought is really bad, and yeah. So Zambia, the drought evolved into an agriculture, energy, and social protection crisis. 1 million hectares of crops were damaged, and hydropower generation was severely affected, creating an energy deficit of approximately 450 to 500 megawatts. So the government required a significant amount of financial support in order to respond. So the key lesson is that drought preparedness must extend beyond agriculture and include energy security and social protection systems. Right, let's go. Panatswa, thank you. And then in Zimbabwe, crop failures significantly reduced food stocks and weakened livelihoods. Maize production declined dramatically, while millions of people required humanitarian assistance. So, reduced pasture and water availability also placed pressure on livestock, and the drought increased both rural and urban vulnerability, which just demonstrates how climate shocks affect entire communities and societies. All right, let's go to Natswa. And then, as for Botswana, drought is closely linked to rural livelihoods and livestock production. Repeated droughts, they gradually weaken household resilience, reduce savings, leave communities with less time to recover before the next shock. So, this highlights the importance of long term preparedness measures and support systems that strengthen resilience rather than only addressing immediate needs. So, yes. I'm sure you can have a look at the illustration here of the cumulative livelihood stress. So I am not able to see this correctly. Okay, I think I have a system glitch here. I'm just trying to correct. Just give me a second. Just hang on, hang on. Okay, so when you look at quarter 3 to quarter 1 of 2024, the people facing insecurity were 37,000. And then when you look at June 2024, that was 72,000. These people or the number increased drastically. The spike was insane, which means that the requirement or the humanitarian assistance, the need for humanitarian assistance spiked. It was insane. It was insane. All right, we can move on to the next slide, Mr. Tanatswa. So when you look at the data snapshot, it just goes to show how much went into humanitarian support. In the Sadc region, we used about 5.5 billion US dollars, and over 61 million people were targeted, you know, in May 2024, and 68 million people reported by Sadc needed the assistance due to drought impacts by August of 2024, and approximately 17% of the region's population required drought-related aid. This just goes to show that climate shock is quite real and it's quite prevalent, and it needs a lot in order to be able to tackle it. All right, and that's what. Let's move. So we need to have strategic implementation. We need to have a strategic implementation. I don't know what's going on. It's kind of buffering. Just give me a second, please. Let me try and change my Wi-Fi because I don't quite understand what's going on. Sorry, guys. I'm having a bit of a technical issue. I'm having a bit of a technical issue. Okay, where am I? All right, so at strategic level, resilience depends on connecting climate information with planning, governance, and community action. Operationally, success depends on what happens in the last mile, right? The point where warnings reach communities. Remember the early warning systems? So that's where success depends on. Forecasts alone do not save lives. People must understand the forecasts. They must trust that the forecasts are accurate and they must know how to act on the forecasts, right? So the youth can strengthen this crucial link, right? So that's a very important thing. Now the all right, so that's all we can move on. So the systemic implications for the SADC. It highlights the broader implication for disaster risk management. Drought affects food systems, energy security, public finances, local governance, and even conservation efforts, right? So, resource scarcity can increase tensions between people, livestock, and wildlife. Therefore, disaster risk reduction must be integrated across all sectors rather than treated as a standalone emergency function because everything is interconnected. All right, Anatso. So, early warning systems. Effective early warning systems are people centered and action oriented, right? So they involve four key components. The first one is understanding risk, knowing what it is and knowing what it can do, right? Monitoring hazards. We have hazards everywhere. We need to monitor these hazards so that they do not become um, dangerous to us or they do not affect us negatively. And then we must communicate early warnings clearly and ensure that we are prepared to act. A forecast has very little value if it does not lead to timely decisions and proactive action. So, being proactive and protective and having timely decisions is what saves lives. So, early warning systems must therefore connect information directly to action. You cannot have a system that's just going to say, oh, we have a drought that's coming. What are we doing about that? We must be prepared. So we must be prepared to act. All right, let's go. So this slide presents a practical model for youth engagement. Young people can be trained to observe local conditions, verify information through supervisors, communicate trusted messages, and support preparedness activities. Their strength lies in their proximity to communities, digital literacy, and the ability to influence peers. However, participation must be structured, governed, and supported through training and safeguarding measures. So we we must we must structure and support training through safeguarding measures. It's quite important to have training so that we are doing something that is, I don't want to say uniform, but something that actually makes sense and something that can be done across the region. So it's quite important. I hope I'm making sense. So when we look at the roles and the safeguards, young people can contribute through community risk mapping, reporting local drought indicators, communicating risks in local languages. The communication in local language is quite important because, as children of the soil, not all of us are very fluent in English. Not all of us understand English. So it's important that the community also be involved in a way that would actually make sense or would actually help them to get on board. So, communicating in local languages and supporting preparedness activities. So, and at the same time, safeguards are essential. These safeguards include protection, verification procedures, inclusive participation, and conflict sensitive communication. So, effective youth engagement requires both opportunity and accountability. It's important to highlight that aspect. So, to strengthen resilience, right, WASH must be fully integrated into disaster risk reduction. This includes protecting water infrastructure, um, pre-positioning hygiene supplies, training youth as WASH champions, which we are doing right now. So I think you guys are going to be WASH champions in your respective countries. Yes. Incorporating WASH indicators into early warning and anticipatory action systems. And so by investing in WASH before disaster occurs, we can significantly reduce health risk and humanitarian needs. So, in conclusion, the Sadc shockwave demonstrates that climate risks are interconnected and borderless. The region needs more than accurate forecasts. It needs strong systems that transform warnings into action. By integrating DRR and strengthening WASH systems and empowering youth as active participants in early warning systems, we can build a more resilient community across Southern Africa. So, thank you very much, guys, for your attention. And I look forward to your questions, if any. That is the end of my presentation.
Okay, thank you very, very much, Awane, for that presentation. Just a disclaimer to everyone, you may have felt as if this presentation was long, it was full of information that's new or information that is a bit hard to grasp at first glance. So the whole point of this presentation was to give you just the facts from a window of what we are talking about when we speak about WASH, when we speak about disaster risk management. We do not expect you to understand everything at once, completely in one sitting. So this is just for you to be familiar with some of the terms. Don't worry, we will take you through a 4-week masterclass after the 3-day summit, where we are now going deep into what WASH is and all the other sessions that will come in day 1, day 2, and day 3. We will compile them into knowledge that you can then use to identify some of the issues within your countries. And then that's when we'll draft for yourselves a framework or a handbook that you will present to your countries or present to donors, to funders, that will allow you then to not just approach these people with passion, but with facts. So, Awane, brilliant presentation. I am going to let you go right now, and let's just see if people. Let me just assess what you guys have understood so far. So, for those who can, we're just gonna do a 5-minute quiz via a platform called Mentimeter. So I am going to drop the presentation right now. I'm going to share my screen. Right. Okay. Let me guys know if you can see my screen. Let me see if you can see my screen. All right. So if you can see my screen, please do let me know. Okay. For those who are able to, please visit menti.com and enter this specific code, the code that I'm highlighting with my mouse right here. Okay, I see one person has joined. Let's get to just at least 20 people who join, and then we can see what we can do about this quiz. Or maybe let me drop the link as well into the chat. This is just to assess what we have learned so far. So I'm going to drop the link in the chat. Okay, we should be seeing a highlighted yellow link floating within the chat. Let me know if you can see it. If you can, let's just get to 20 and then we'll start the quiz. There's no prize for this, by the way. This is just to assess your level of knowledge. All right, I see 20 have joined. Okay, it's fine. Okay, so this is just a quick knowledge check from Iona's presentation, just to see exactly how much we have grasped. So I'm just going to minimize the size of the presentation. All right. Okay, here we go. Let's see who gets the highest score here. Okay. All right. So let's answer the first question. You should be able to see the question right now. All right. All right. Here's the question. Let's see your answers. According to the cascade model, which was presented by Aone, what is the root trigger for cross-border climate shocks? You have 4 options here. Rainfall deficit seems to be the one winning. Humanitarian demand coming in second, hydropower constraints, crop failure. Okay, that's all right. Okay, we seem to have a leaderboard. So bragging rights, I guess that's what's at stake here. Okay, moving on to the next question. Question 2. Are you ready? All right. In Botswana, cumulative livelihood stress caused food insecurity to spike from 37,000 to what number? I remember Aone was very much shocked by this number as well as she was presenting it. And she was saying that it's a dramatic jump. So let's see. Brilliant. I don't know. Only one person said 100,000. Yes, but that is the wrong answer. The correct answer is 72,000. Okay. Let's see who's leading our small quiz before we move on to the next presentation. This is just to calm ourselves down. This is just to relax, before we get into the next presentation. The next presentation will be by my mentor, actually, one of my mentors. Her name is Favor, and she will take you through a presentation about eco-anxiety. So before she comes on stage, let's just debrief. We're just debriefing right now. Third question, only 5 questions available. Answer quickly. True or false? 50% chance here. Climate shocks are contained within national borders and do not affect regional stability. Is this true or is this false? Are climate shocks contained within national borders or not? Are they localized? Are they regional? Are they whatever? Okay, for the 4 people saying true, I'm wondering what's going on with you guys, considering the topic of the presentation was on how it is not national, it is regional. But anyway, let's see who's winning. Okay, we have Puleng from SA, I believe she's winning. Okay, second last question. Okay, here we go. Oops, I think I moved on too quickly there. Okay, here we go. Answer quickly to get more points. What makes cumulative livelihood stress so dangerous to rural communities? Take your time to read through the answers and let me know which one you think is the correct one. Okay. Okay. The majority got it correct. That's repeated droughts, which reduce recovery time before the next shock. Okay, this is our very last question. Let's see who comes out on top. Okay, when a rainfall deficit causes hydropower constraints, what systems takes the direct hit next. It's not so common sense as you think it is. So I wouldn't fault you for not knowing. Okay. Social protection in public finances is actually what um, is directly hit next. So yes, thank you guys for participating. This doesn't mean anything. The winner is not going to get anything from me, but the ultimate winner is seems to be Puleng. Well done, Puleng. I don't know. Maybe you can introduce yourself in the WhatsApp group, and we will see the face behind this wonderful achievement. Okay, so now we're moving on to our last presentation of the day. So each and every day we'll have two presenters. We don't want to take too much of your time. I'm sure most of you guys want to go watch the World Cup, but this is better than the World Cup because this is about your futures, right? You can always watch the highlights. But here, this is live. This is a virtual summit. This is an intimate session where we are talking about youth. We're talking about youth in climate action. We are talking about young people and you guys taking the role of the advocate. You are taking the role of the person responsible for action, for climate action happening within your own contexts. So our next speaker is my mentor, my personal mentor. Her name is Favor, right? This is what she looks like. Let's just see if she's ready. She's ready. Hi, Favor.
Hi.
There she is. Okay, so I'll just give her 5 minutes to introduce herself, and then we can get into her presentation. So, Favor, please, by all means.
Hi T, can you hear me? Sorry, can I get a confirmation that you can hear me, please?
Add myself. Yes, we can hear you, Favor. We can definitely hear you. Please go
Okay.
ahead and
Right.
yes.
Yeah, thank you. So hello everyone. My name is Favor Iragbe, and I'm a conservationist based in Lagos, Nigeria, and I'm the founder of Youth for Environmental Conservation. We are a youth-led organization working to address land and freshwater degradation across underserved communities in Africa. So my work cuts across conservation, empowering young people with tools, resources to begin their careers in conservation and sustainability. And I'm also an environmental educator. I don't think I would really like to bore you all with reciting my bio anyways, but I think these are just my interests. My interest cuts across conservation, environmental education, and green entrepreneurship. So it's a pleasure to be here to get to speak with every one of you and be a part of this program. Yeah, thank you very much. Um, so in today's um, webinar, today's workshop, I'm going to be speaking on turning eco-anxiety into action. So I will cut across burnout, like I say, being tired, exhausted, as a climate professional. These things are actually real. And I think today, why I want to share about case studies or how we might see it in the southern part of Africa and Africa in general. I'll also share personal case studies on how I also navigate eco anxiety and yeah, just show up and try to do my best in my own journey. So can we have the next slide, please? Okay, great. So burnout has a huge web. There are different ways in which we can feel burnt out. Yes, working in the climate space can be exhausting. It can be tense, it can be tiring, and there are actually so many reasons why that happens. Um, One major reason I think in this part of the world is, as a climate activist, as a change maker, whatever, I think there is still a huge gap in what we want and what our leaders are actually doing. I think this is one way we easily get burnt out. You just went for a workshop, a U workshop, and everybody is talking about this climate finance policy. Looks like great news that could change the trajectory of climate action in Africa or your community. And then what does the government do? The government just pretends like it doesn't exist. They just dismiss the policy. It is not taken serious. And according to one of my role model, Okonjo-Iweala, she would say that one major issue why Africa is where it is, or why we're experiencing this slow growth, any other thing, is due to corruption. Corruption has eaten deeply into our systems, into our society, that it's kind of distracting the urgency, it's kind of distracting the need, it's distracting why we should actually take action, why we should manage this thing. So if you've felt physically exhausted reading the news about climate change this year, that feeling is completely valid. I think for me, there was a time this year where I had to kind of step back, especially on Twitter, kind of step back from using Twitter, because I noticed, yeah, go there, you're always seeing news flying, and there's also disinformation and AI. That's like another old ball game, like how to manage those things so that you don't just fall for every news you find on the internet. And I had to just limit the time I spent on Twitter, because I noticed anytime I was there, I could be feeling excited after a day, and I go to Twitter and my day is ruined. I'm just tired and stuff like that. So there's so many news, so many things that have happened from the beginning of this year, years before, in the climate space, that actually it just makes you feel, as a young person, it feels hopeless. And if we can really, if you're really following social media, you find out that there's a movement now happening. It's also seeping into the green space, where young people are not really keen to start a family because of climate change. They feel like, with what is happening, if current leadership doesn't improve, our leaders don't take the actions required, then what is the need of like bringing somebody into this world that could actually come and experience or face the impact of climate change? So these things are actually stress, psychological stress, and they cut across. There is actually one of my favorite papers to read by UNICEF on children and burnout. Children face the most stress in regarding climate change. And we have women too who are also hit. This is not also to dismiss that men too don't feel this impact, but due to like our biological design, children are like vulnerable, women are vulnerable to these things. So if you're feeling this way, you probably follow through news in your country, and you're probably expecting the government, you're expecting leaders to go a certain direction or to do certain things about these disasters, and they're not doing that. Yes, and you feel sad about it, you just feel exhausted, you could even feel angry. Yes, you could feel angry. It's actually valid. You're not the only one who feels that way. Like, these things are actually like a mental toll on young people. Can I have the next slide, please? So we have two kinds of eco anxiety. I think I love this slide because this is something I usually say. I'm a Pan-Africanist. I'm always Africa, Africa first. So the way climate change is viewed in Africa, the way it affects us, is different from the way it affects people in the global north, because of the systems we have in place. That's the primary reason. So when it comes to tackling climate change, when it comes to how climate change is even defined, it's entirely different. So it means that the impact, the way we receive it, the way it happens to us, it's going to be actually different. So Western anxiety is often fueled by doom scrolling through news articles about 2050 emission targets. I think, yeah, you really find this one in the global north. At least you could see their leaders coming out to talk about climate change and stuff like that. I've used my country as a case example. I don't really think I've really seen the government like really come out this year to talk about climate change or these are the impact, because that's the issue in Africa. We are like too busy chasing other things. We are kind of distracted. And it pains me so much because the global north, again, they are moving and they're moving quickly to design solutions for their own sustainable future. And Africa is being left behind. We are having to tackle issues in education, in health. For me, I call them basic things that our leaders can quickly and overnight like procure solutions to, but they make them something very huge. So the global north, they're actually designing their solutions. Today we're looking at renewable energy, and I can tell you for sure, when we talk about mining in Africa, in the DRC, for example, our mineral resources are being mined. For me, I see a day will come. These guys will have mined, let's say, mined everything in Africa. They will now be comfortable, and then the mineral resources will be in the global north. Africa again will be on its knees begging to actually access these mineral resources that were originally gotten from Africa, because that's how we've seen it. When fossil fuel came about, fossil fuel, Africa has countries that were big ups in fossil fuel. My country is an example. But what happened? We were sleeping on it. The West came, they drilled fossil fuel, took it back to their countries, developed their countries, and what happened? They have to sell it back to us. So these things, like seeing our leaders again, like we're just disconnected, it actually also fuels like eco anxiety. So the SADC anxiety, which is the Southern Africa Development, um eco-anxiety is fueled by just looking out the window. Yes, when you see your immediate surroundings, I think for me, seeing somebody just dispose indiscriminately, for me, I sometimes I try to ask myself, I've never lived in the West before, like for months for me to know, but I try to ask myself, like, when are we going to like start living like humans, to understand that these things have impact. Like these are like fundamental things. We're not even asking you to use renewable energy yet. We're just asking you to do the right thing by disposing properly. And we're still struggling with that. So those things, like sometimes I just see it and I'm just shaking my head. It's sometimes it makes me angry because I actually do cleanups too. And so our own experience, I think before you even look at the news, before you follow up with policy briefs in your country or meetings, consultations, just by looking, coming out in your streets, looking at things, and even the weather, climate in itself, everything changing, the price of food, it's enough for you to just wonder, like, are we actually making progress? Are we going to get to a point where things are actually better, like we are able to adapt, we're able to mitigate these issues, or we're just going to be getting the same bad rhythm like every year. So every day we see different things that happen across our communities. For me, growing up, I had my own share of the whole climate thing, and that's why environmental education is I'm really really deep into it, because for me, I want that to change in Africa. It's an issue. Most of the people, I stand to be corrected, but most of the people, arguably, most of the people in the climate space in Africa joined the climate space because they saw an issue, they read about an issue, or probably they heard about an issue, for example, like flooding happening, something happened disastrous, and you felt, oh my God, okay, they said if we take climate action, these things can change. A very, very huge, I'm very sure over 70% of the people leading climate action in Africa. Because when we check our very popular climate advocates, you find that is the news. Name them. You find, oh, my village, there was drought. Oh, my village, there was flooding. Oh, my house. Something always happens, something negative. But sadly, that is not the difference. That is not how it is, rather, in the global north. And that needs to change, because it also makes us see climate change from a very siloed perspective. We kind of see it as, okay, we are just attacking a problem, we're just solving flooding. And that is why when you begin to go deep into the climate space, you find out that climate change is more of politics than even science. You find out that there are a lot of webs around these things, why your government is not taking action, those kind of things. It's like very, very political than scientific. So for me, I always want young people, that's why I'm very keen on young people. I want to see a generation of young people in Africa leading climate action because they fell in love with the environment, because they love planting trees, or because they believe and understand that, oh, trees are very good for the environment. Oh, the environment, when we dispose indiscriminately, it degrades. I want to see that generation of people actually coming up. For me, when I was growing up, I did not even know these things are like climate change, adaptation in disguise. I lost a classmate of mine. He was swept away by floods when I was very, very young. I never even knew. It didn't click that, oh, this is climate change in action. When I was in high school, I saw like houses submerged under flooding events, like people's livelihoods washed away, people drowning as a result of this whole climate change, as a result of the government not mitigating the impacts. They know that these things will happen. They should set in systems and structures, infrastructure that will actually lessen the impact, but they don't. I actually witnessed this. So it took time. Those things grew up with me and all of those things. So seeing this drought incident, seeing families lose livelihoods to drought, to flooding, when you watch an outbreak of cholera, of diseases as a result of this climate change impact, it actually starts like becoming a trauma, something we have to like, and you have no choice. You have to like live with it. And in this part of the world, we don't really have therapy. It's not even something that um that is we see every day and all of those things. So another part of the mental health eco anxiety is burnout, and it happens to young people in different ways. And that's why as a young person, I think I would also try to um explain and talk about why you should embrace your journey. I think this is like one of my most asked questions. Okay, Viva, how can I start into this space? How can I get global opportunities? How can I do A? How can I do this? Like you need to, I don't want to say calm down. Like you need to calm down, because burnout happens like when things don't also like go as planned. Like, yes, you want to do great stuff in the climate space, you're applying for opportunities, you're having sleepless nights, you're juggling a lot of things just to make sure that, yeah, your voice is heard, you actually contribute. And in the end, things don't work out as planned. It can also cause burnout. So, and it kind of attacks your brain. Let me put it that way. Attacks your brain, that first you just feel like you're not deserving. You begin to see yourself as, oh, it's not worth it, or probably it won't just work out, or these things, are they even real? It affects you, like it's kind of a psychological thing. It just stresses you out. So burnout can also happen when you are overloaded. I think sometimes I am a very analog person. Now our generation, we usually use notes to like take down our task. You're not going to readily find me doing that. I usually make use of like scrap paper to like do my own notes. And sometimes I'm making a list at the beginning of the week of what I have to do. And I noticed that all the things I have to do, I'm like having 40, like I numbered it and I'm seeing 40 different items of things I have to do. Like, and I'm looking at it probably in about a week or 10 days, I should be done with that. Seeing that alone, just my brain just wants to shut down. Like it's not possible. Sometimes what I just do is I just split them instead of having the 40, like staring at the 40, I just group them like into 10 like that, so that I attack the first 10 and I find joy in crossing them off of my to-do list. I attack the next 10, something like that. So that's another way burnout can come. When you are overloaded, you're having so many things to do, is also a way like it just paralyzes how you think and even how you react. You become angry, you become agitated because you are actually burnt out. So can I have next slide? Okay, so climate change, I said before, is a threat multiplier and it happens to everyone differently. Yeah, it happens to everybody differently. It's not the same thing. And when I said previously that climate change in Africa is different from climate change in Europe, for example, this is what I mean. Now, when these guys in Europe have flooding events, sometimes they even know before the floods happen. How many times in Africa, in our African local communities, do we get an announcement that, okay, in the next 7 days, we might have a flooding? If sometimes when this information is even passed, we don't even believe it. We just feel that's a lie, or that's something that will not happen. We don't even trust our government. But in the global north, they have these warning systems where they know ahead of time. And then people are evacuated, there are things that happen and stuff like that. Um, I think is it in Japan, I think there is a country that one of these Asian countries, there's a way they now build their structures in a way that when earthquake happens, instead of buildings just collapsing, there's a way the buildings just interfere with each other, so that unless the earthquake is like an very very high magnitude, that's when buildings should collapse. But something very light, buildings should not just fall apart easily. There's a way they are building so that when buildings are shaking, they just like interfere instead of just collapsing. Those are systems. We don't have that in this part of the world. So when this flood, they make the announcement, floods happen, people are evacuated on time, you will carry um your resources, your stuff, you're able to protect yourself ahead of time. Another thing they have we don't have is insurance. When those buildings are impacted by flood, they have insurance on their properties. We don't have. An average African does not have insurance. Insurance is for the elite in this part of the world, but over there it is not really like that. So, and when this flood event happen, there is response. You see them, there is 911. You see them, they are going with rescue team. We don't have those things in Africa. Like, we don't have those things in Africa. That's why I think somehow when you understand where Africa is, I don't want to say the whole where we are in. I think when you see some things, you not panic. It should just maybe spark something in you that, okay, I have to keep going because we still have work to do. They'll have rescue teams that go around. They have helicopters searching for people's, like securing people's properties. They have those things in place. I think there's something that we easily say in Nigeria. We say that God knew what He was doing. That's why in Africa it did not give us this earthquake, these tsunamis. Like in Nigeria, it didn't give us those things because our leaders will not even do anything when tsunamis are about to happen. If we even know beforehand, our leaders will just fly out of the country. They will fly to Europe. When tsunamis are over, they come back, something like that. Like God knew these things. That's why He did not even give us. But look at the, will I say, issues we have, flooding, drought, and look at how it impacts us. And the reality is, communities that contribute less like to the whole impact of climate change, they are the ones paying the highest prices due to their systems. Most of these people still embrace their indigenous way of living. They don't have large factories, they don't have gasoline generators, they don't have this equipment that release the greenhouse gases, but yet they are impacted the most because the systems that those advanced countries and communities have put in place, they do not have those systems. Can I have the next slide? So water is the front line, because when the impact of climate change happens, especially in, let's say, especially in Southern Africa, across, water is easily impacted. It's either there is less of it or there is too much of it. When we have flooding, we easily have contamination, both soil contamination and even diseases can begin to fly around. And these communities that depend on these things, like, they lose access to clean water that they like easily had before. They lose access to this thing, which is a form of injustice. So young people must treat like wash interventions as something like very crucial, very important. Water is finite, so we need to treat it as such, and it's a fundamental human right. Everybody should have access to water. So when this impact hits communities, I think water is the first that actually just goes out, because it's either it's not enough, it's not in great condition for consumption. Can I have the next slide? Okay. The cure is agency. So how do advocates avoid burning out and quitting the movement? I've actually had people who say that, oh, they knew people who left the climate space because of what they've seen. I think maybe this was me in some way, and it would be you if you see climate change from um like one side of you. And I would advise you to begin to see climate change from a political lens. Yeah, it's political. So your leaders not taking action, there is a reason why. So when you begin to see climate change intersectionally, you see how these things are linked to each other. I've been giving a lot of examples. You understand that, okay, this is how this thing works, and that is how you act. So yes, agency, the feeling that your actions have a direct, measurable impact, no matter how small the scale. I think these things are a way that when you are aware of what needs to be done or what is happening, then your reaction will be different. You not just react to every news you see. When you see some news and you see some things happening, yes, the pressure is there, the panic can even be there. It's part of the old mental health thing. Yes, but you should be able to react like in a proper way. You react, okay, not just because you want to react like despair, you're afraid. You react because you actually know what is happening. Can I have the next slide? Okay. Another thing you need to know is you must stop obsessing over global emission targets that you cannot control today. So there are a lot of targets: biodiversity, climate, the world is setting. Oh, by 2030, we're going to be this, we're going to be that. You don't have power over these targets. I can be certain you were not even there when these targets were set, but you should not put it as your own personal target to say, oh, my country says by 2030 there will be no plastic bag used, and you put that as your own personal target. Trust me, you're going to burn out, because these things don't work as they seem or as they are announced and all of those things. Then you cure your anxiety by assembling a rainwater harvesting system for a rural school. Yes, there is so much joy in social impact. Like when you begin to take action, you participate. I think when you sit in one place and you're just consuming all the news from January to December, you're actually going to get exhausted. For me, in the last couple of weeks, I've been doing field work, like engaging communities, young people, on rainwater harvesting, on sustainable agriculture, permaculture, STEM, and it's something I just want to continue doing. I don't want to stop. Yes, it can be really stressful working with young people. It can be noisy, but it has been very, very great. I think another tip I would share if something I do, when you feel you're burnt out, you're exhausted, please have a buddy, have a colleague, have a friend. You cannot be in this space alone. You cannot navigate these things alone. Have a friend, somebody you rant to. I have my own friends. I have my own people. They know. I would just send them this voice note. I would just start typing in their DMs that, oh my God, why are these leaders doing this thing? Like, and they know, okay, Favour is exhausted. So they just allow you talk and talk, and then they like share these things. They just share these things to say, okay, this is how it is, this is what you can do, just relax. I have some friends that will even say, okay, don't worry, shut down your laptop, go to bed, tomorrow come back. You have to like have your own squad, like talk to these people. Sometimes it can be really frustrating, very tiring. Shut down. Just leave the internet. Stop reading the news. Just do something fun. Go out. Go, I think outdoors is really, really great. I think that's one of the best things. Or you want to do next Netflix, just see something like, yeah, just do something different, something that will just make you believe, that makes you happy. It can be even cooking, it can be just go and visit a friend, something like that, and you just find that you get relief, because you have to find joy in this thing. Sometimes I ask myself, I say, do these leaders not even like feel these things, like your country, look at what is happening, drought, people are hungry and all of these things, flooding. Don't you feel it? How do you go to bed at night? If the people who are responsible every day, they are smiling in front of the press, giving amazing speeches, then why should me, who is even taking action, who is doing something, be like carry the weight of the entire Africa on my head? So try as much as you can, like work with people, speak with people. Seriously, it would really help you. Like find your own squad, like find your people that you always talk to, and just like I think is one of the reasons why I started writing, adding sarcasm to my post on LinkedIn, because and I've really gotten a lot of feedback on it. Like just so the way you read, you just read those posts and you just okay, you just laugh at these things instead of just feeling all pressured and all of these things. Can I have next slide? Okay, so do not let your anxiety consume you. It should help you focus. Yes, your anxiety should not be the reason why you develop bad attitudes, bad character, you become the angry bird. No, it should not be like that. It should actually help you focus. I think, especially for us in this part of the world, even globally, we hear we are the leaders of tomorrow, but the people that I've been saying we are the leaders of tomorrow, I've been leading for as much as I know. So these things should just help you focus. For me, I'm just looking forward, and it's why I contribute my own culture, because I am hoping, like hope is alive, that one day or a day will come, Africa would like wake up, or things will get better. We'll no longer be chasing these petty issues, and our voice can actually be heard on global stages, not because of um global north countries want to exploit us, but because of partnership is real. And we're having some African countries actually wake up to this thing. So we want to keep the momentum going. And I really understand that as young people, you're going to find yourself in like different spaces. You're going to find yourself in organizations, in institutions. So you cannot let this anxiety. And there is something I've come across recently. It is being sung by corporations that are destroying our planet. They are making it look like there is no more time. Like 2030 is here or 2050 is here. There is no more time to save the planet. It is a lie. There is enough time to save the planet. This time, 2030, whatever timeline, 2040, it's like a target. That's how these things work. If you don't give yourself a target, you won't actually take action, right? So I've seen this thing. I saw it on an environmentalist I follow, and it's true. They push these narratives like and they like some of them do it by their actions. They just continue to drill. They just continue to do whatever, because they want you to actually give up. Yes, they want you to give up, because when you give up, yeah, they've given them what they wanted. You just go with the flow. There is actually enough time. Like there is time. I think that's something about the environment. I think if you really do, I'll share an experience. So somebody said in Lagos, Nigeria, where I live, you don't see butterflies. You don't see butterflies. Like, you don't see those things. And I said, it's a lie. You don't see those things because you don't have the things that would make butterflies come around. I think it was nearly 2 years ago, I said to myself, I want to even see all this rewilding, nature recovery, if these things are actually true myself. And I started a flower garden. I think I've not shared the clips. I have to edit the clips and share it on my LinkedIn. You need to see pollinators action in my flower garden. I'm like, what? Like, these things are real. So imagine if every house, like, just in my community, like, everybody planted. I saw species of spider. I've seen the most. I don't like spiders. I love spiders. Like, you need to see. I saw a very cute yellow spider. Like, these things are actually real. You need to. I was actually seeing pollinators, these insects. They go into the flower like that, come out of it. You see butterflies. Like, I've been so trying to capture butterflies. Once they see you coming, they just want. They're very fanciful. They just want to fly away. So, like, you need to see pollinators action live. Like, so these things are actually true. So imagine if everybody picked their initiative that I want to start a flower garden, I want to start bringing back biodiversity and all of these things. You see that it will work, but they want you to feel like you've run out of time. There's nothing you can do. So also, drop the noise. Yes, don't be a climate doomer or something like that. You're always doing, oh, we don't have time. You're always following the negative news. You're always the one leaving the negative comments. It doesn't help. It just makes you sick. Something like that. So pick up action. Try as much as you can to volunteer, even if it's a cleanup, even if it's just tree planting, anything little. Try to get into simple programs where you can just participate, not just online. Try to, like, just get your hands dirty. If you have, like, an apartment around you, buy like a flower, buy a tree, just do something yourself. Like, speak to people, like, just do anything. You don't have to wait till you have your own organization, and you actually see, like, the difference. So join to organize communities to secure water and environmental rights of the SADC. So can I have the next slide? I think that's the final slide. So thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for being here. And yes, I would say thank you to the organizer and all the partners for putting this together. It was a nice time sharing my own experience, and I wish you guys all the best in your journey in the climate space. So thank you very much.
Okay, a round of applause for Favor, please. That was a brilliant session on eco anxiety. And to be very honest, as Africans, we tend to shy away from these topics to do with how we feel about burnout. We're always told to, keep going and things like that. But it's okay to take a break. It's okay to regroup. It's okay to, take time away to cleanse yourself mentally and to just allow yourself some time to gather your thoughts and to focus your energy on things with the right time that is required, because we cannot save the world by ourselves. She spoke a lot about having a squad. You cannot do it by yourself, especially in the climate space. You need people to be with you. So that is the last of our presentations. However, for just 5 minutes, I'd like to take you guys through another interactive session. So in this interactive session, what we are simply doing is gathering your thoughts, right? You are gathering your thoughts based off of, let's give a scenario, right? For each and every one of your countries, from Angola to Zimbabwe, and our friends who are, from other countries not in the Sadc region, I'm going to share with you what's called a mirror board. A mirror board is where we can collaboratively place our thoughts. So what's going to happen is I'm going to send a link in the chat, right? Once I send that link, please click that link. It will take you through the mirror board, right? On this board, what I want you to do is to identify a threat within your country. So there's Angola, there's Botswana, Comoros, DRC, up to Zimbabwe, and our non-SADC friends, you have your own separate column where you can add your thoughts. So for those who are not from SADC region, just on the sticky notes, because they are sticky notes, add your country, and then what you're supposed to do is identify a threat within your country, and then you're going to give the immediate impact of that threat in the second column. So I think it's best if I just show it to you. Okay. Okay. So here's what I'm talking about. All right, let me just remove this presentation. All right. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. The link is now live in the chat. So if you're in the chat, click on the link. It will take you through this board. So what you are supposed to do, simply identify your country, right? Go to your country, and then please identify a threat, right, within your country, and then the immediate WASH impact. Okay, so I'm sure you'll be able to see an example that is given on the far left. Okay. Okay. So what you're supposed to do, guys, you find sticky notes, these sticky notes. Simply drag the sticky note. So if you're from Angola, for example, you place it in Angola, and you can zoom in as much as you want. So what could be the threat in Angola, for example? I have no idea. Let's just say floods, right? Floods. And then grab another sticky note, right? And then go to the immediate WASH impact, right? So what could be the immediate WASH impact for a flood, right? We could have waterborne diseases, right? This is just an example. So please feel free to grab a sticky note, right? I'm seeing people already active. Okay. Please grab the sticky notes. No one is grabbing sticky notes so far. The sticky notes, there are 3 zones, by the way. Zone A is just by alphabetical order. It's not by any specific order of importance. Then there's Zone B, and then there's Zone C right here. Okay. Feel free to navigate the Miro board and grab a sticky note and add it to your specific country. Okay. I'm seeing someone is typing rainfall deficit. Okay, that's brilliant. We have 19 people on the board. So this is just to get your thoughts and to just gather baseline information about what you guys are going through within your countries regarding the primary climate change threats that are currently occurring within your countries. Yes, I'm only seeing one person adding a sticky note. Or maybe you guys are just taking time to figure out the board, which is completely fine. This could be new to some people, and that's the whole idea, right? Okay. Someone said load shedding. Yeah, that's that's definitely a threat. So yes, please feel free to add your threats and your immediate WASH impact. So let's just give this 10 more minutes, right? And then we wrap up our session, our day 1 session. And then some of the things we will talk about in the WhatsApp group. Okay. The sticky notes are on either side of the zones, guys. You just click and drag. Very simple. Click and drag. Okay. Click and drag. This is a collaborative space, right? We have 25 people, which is not too bad. I would have appreciated more people. Our non-Sadc friends, this is the column for you guys. So, for example, if you are from Nigeria, as a lot of us are actually, you grab a sticky note, place it in the primary thread, okay, say Nigeria, right? And then you add your thread, whatever it may be, and then you give your recommendation or the immediate WASH impact on this column. Okay, let's just give it five more minutes. Let's just give it 5 more minutes. Mr. Vincent, you seem to be stuck. Okay, let's see what Puleng is typing. It's not to put you on the spot. Okay, flooding. All right. This is for what? Which country is this? South Africa, of course. Infrastructure damage, definitely something to consider. What do we have here? Current droughts. Okay. Where are all the Malawians? Where are the Malawians? Right, Zimbabwe. Okay, so I'm going to leave this mirror board live. So even after the stream has ended, I'm sure some people are crying about their data. It's completely valid. So we are just going to, I'm going to end the session, but the link will still be live. I'll even share the link in the WhatsApp group, and you can always come back to this session, to this collaborative board, and then you can add your thoughts, right? So I think I am going to wrap up our session today, right? So thank you everybody for joining our session today. This is our day 1, where we were familiarizing ourselves with issues to do with disaster risk, DRR, issues to do with eco-anxiety, which is a very real problem that African people should stop treating as if it's a myth. And a brief introduction as to why we are holding this session. So just to give you a heads up of what to look forward to, we have 3 days that will be today, tomorrow, and the day after. We are holding these sessions that will last for about 1.5 hours, right? For these sessions, we are simply introducing to you certain topics that are of importance that Sadc youth need to be aware of in order for them to be able to present them to either policymakers or to take action, right, on their own, so that they can be better equipped to make change. Because we don't want to be just loud, we want to be effective, right? So after these 3 days, what we are going to do is we're going to gather information from each and every one of your countries as to what are the primary issues that you guys are facing related to climate change, related to WASH, that you guys are going through within your countries. And then we are going to co-author together a framework for each of your countries. So Zimbabwe will talk about food insecurity, we'll talk about droughts, we'll talk about, so many of these things, and talk about the impacts and what actions we can take, both as individuals, as communities, and as a nation at large. Then in South Africa as well, Botswana, Namibia, Lesotho, DRC, all the SADC countries, and even our non-SADC friends as well, you're also free to share your thoughts about your own countries. Once we do that, we then author our own framework created by us for us. Do you understand? And your name will be on the document, okay? And then this document, we will be able, or you in your capacity as a group, that's why we decided to create WhatsApp groups, so that you guys can collaborate for your own countries to think together to gather as much information as possible. And then we just collectively gather that into a SADC framework. So with this framework, we can be able to apply for grants, we can be able to present it to people of influence. Even the UN itself, they will be able to take notice if we present this to them and say, we hosted a session with 500 youth across the SADC region, and this is what they said they want from them, by them, for them. Okay, so that is the whole idea. We're not just talking climate change. We're not just here to ramble about things that we can easily, Google about, but we want to collaborate to create change. So with that, I thank you for joining. I thank you for being part of the session. I thank you for being interactive, for sharing your comments in the chat. Thank you again to our wonderful speakers, and we will definitely meet tomorrow with 2 different speakers. More information in the WhatsApp group. Thank you so much, guys. Please feel free to exit the YouTube stream, and we will see you tomorrow.